everyone. Welcome, welcome. Happy Monday. Here we are again. Everybody's fallen into the chat. I love it. We're going to talk about shame today. Do you feel perpetually bad, broken, or unlovable? Do you feel like damaged goods? Those feelings come from the emotion of shame, and that's our topic. We're going to go into great detail tonight. So get out your pen and paper, take some notes if you'd like, or you can just watch this over and over because it's going to be good and juicy. Okay. What is shame? It's a very unpleasant emotion that plays a part in our survival as a species, right? So it has some good to it. It helps us to adhere to cultural norms, follow laws, behave in ways that allow us to exist as social beings, interact well with others. Shame can help us be humble, teach us about boundaries, help us understand how our behavior affects others. That's all good, but it's the chronic shame. That's what we're going to talk about tonight that leads to feelings of fundamental flawedness, like something is wrong with you as a person, that you're defective, bad, broken, damaged, incomplete, and inadequate. And that is not true. So if this topic interests you, I invite you to stay and enjoy. Meanwhile, if this is your first time here, welcome. We're happy to have you. My name is Karen Marinez. I'm an emotional wellness coach. I help the exhausted woman who struggles to feel comfortable in her own skin, suffers from low self-esteem, and because of that it continues to overextend herself to please others because she wants to feel her worth. And I also help my clients to identify and process their emotions so you can find peace, passion, and purpose. Okay. If you are not subscribed, I ask of you to please subscribe. I'll give you a moment to do that. Let me get a little sip of water. What happens is if you subscribe, then you can comment in the chat and I would love to hear from you. Okay. So jump in the chat if you'd like. If those that, and I must acknowledge those that never come in the chat, but you're here and I'm grateful for your presence. The fact that you keep coming back means that you're gaining something from these podcasts, and I do appreciate your support, and I'm glad that you're enjoying them. Okay, and then for those who are coming in the future, who are seeing the recorded video of this, welcome, enjoy, share with others. Okay, let me just say hi in the chat, my dear Elvin. We have Anna. Hey, Anna. We have Naya. Naya, so good to have you here with us. Ari, Oris, Tiff, hey, Luz, Fabiola. Gio is getting down with that music. We got some good music. Debbie, Carolyn, Imani, it's love the music, right? Isn't it cute? Thanks to Alejandro. We got to keep it up. Jasmine, hello, my love. And Cynthia's here. What? You stayed up? And my dear Danielle as well. Hello, hello, hola, hola, buenas noches. It's good to have everyone here. So here's a really good question. What is the difference between guilt and shame? Interesting. Well, someone who feels guilty regrets some behavior they've exhibited, it's behavior, it's something outside of you, while someone who feels shame regrets some aspect of who they are as a person. So essentially, guilt is I did something bad, while shame is I am bad. Mm. So here are some key points to remember. Guilt is in the moment. It's linked to a specific action or choice. It can motivate you to make amends or correct the behavior. Say, I'm sorry, I didn't mean to fix the thing, right? It's often associated with remorse and regret, and we've all felt it. Shame is more long term and it's more personal because it feels like a deep flaw in your character or self-worth. Again, that something is defective in you. It could lead to withdrawal or self-blame, right? If I feel something's wrong with me, I don't want other people to discover that, so I stay away. We're going to talk about that later too. And it stems from a negative self-perception or external criticism. So tonight we're going to talk extensively about shame and then give you some tools that'll help you to relate to yourself in a fairer, gentler way. People that my clients that I deal with on a daily basis, often they know that I say be sweet to yourself, be kind to yourself. It's very important. Okay, Alejandro has put the link to my WhatsApp chat in the link. If anyone is here but that is not on the chat, please get in. I let you know my upcoming topics for YouTube. I shut it down because sometimes being in a group chat causes people anxiety. We don't want to cause stress and anxiety. But Mondays after the live, I open it up so people can share. Marion, hey Marion, good to have you here. And so feel free to join. It's free of charge, and you get you're the first to know stuff, okay? And so we want to be kinder and sweeter to ourselves. The intro was about NLP. It's a course that we're going to be doing in March called Neuro Linguistic Programming. Part of that deals with assertive communication and our inner dialogue, making it kinder, sweeter, more compassionate. We're going to talk about that all throughout tonight. And so pay close attention. And I want you to reflect on you. We don't do this for other people. Oh, so and so needs this. If someone can benefit it, share it, please. But we want to be up close and personal with ourselves. And to get to deal with shame, we have to really be honest with ourselves. Okay. So here we go. You ready? Shame is a painful and complex emotional experience. So it gives us mental distress. We feel unpleasant feelings in our bodies. It becomes physical. It could be a knot in our throat or our chest, a hollowness in our stomach or abdomen. And we have these negative self-conscious thoughts and beliefs, such as there's something wrong with me, I'm damaged goods, I'm messed up, there's no hope for me. And it's common to experience shame temporarily because of some specific situation, right? Uh, if, for example, someone thinks the people they're with have a cause to look down on them in some way or judge them negatively. Okay. But many people struggle with shame in a more frequent and enduring way. And it's called trait shame, TRAIT shame. You experience shame across different situations, both in the presence of others, here's the key, and when alone. Because the other shame, which is called state, like the state of New York shame, because it has to do with a specific group, a specific person that you feel maybe inadequate next to. Something about them invokes shame in you. But then that means that when you're not with them, you don't feel like that. But the trait, TRAIT shame, is all across different situations, both with others and even when you're alone. That's the kind of shame that we're going to talk about. It lends itself to prolonged suffering. And that's what we want to focus on and address. Okay. Shame that's particularly persistent can originate in many ways. I'm sorry, my mouth is not functioning well tonight. I don't know what's going on. So bear with me. Some people internalize shame from demeaning messages, either directly or indirectly, that they receive from parents or caregivers early in life. Here's an example. You walk in a room as a child, and your parent looks over, rolls their eyes, and goes back to what they're doing. Or they don't even look up and acknowledge your presence. You were either despised or ignored. Terrible. So for some, also, shame has its origins in physical, verbal, or emotional abuse or neglect, right? Other people experience shame related to aspects of their identity that are rejected by others or they themselves reject. Could be the color of your skin. Skin color is so beautiful, right? And I've spoken to people that it's 4, 5, 8 kids, and they're all different shades of brown. And the browner children have an issue with that. They feel rejected by others within the family, and it causes shame. That's just an example. Lasting shame can also be from other pivotal life experiences, right? That could cause someone to view themselves as bad or broken in some way. So, for a fuller picture of shame, let's look at an example. Let's consider Carmen, right? Carmen thinks there's something wrong with her brain and there's something wrong with her personality at its core. And this negative self perception that she walks around with could stem partly from the abuse that she suffered. It was a neglectful environment in her childhood. And then in school, she was bullied all the time for several years. So Carmen interacts with the world in a way of distrust, right? And in a way that reflects her underlying belief that if people could really see who she was on the inside, nobody would want anything to do with her. She's in fear of this. And because of that fear, she keeps a distance in relationships. You can only get but so close. And she conceals most of her true thoughts and feelings, even when she is kind of close to someone. And when she isolates herself. And when she is home alone, she finds it hard even to tolerate sitting with herself. It's like a self-loathing. So she scrolls through social media endlessly, excessive eating, excessive sleeping, mindless TV watching, all to avoid the thoughts and feelings that surface when she's sitting in silence, of her self-loathing, of her shame of who she is at the core. The study suggests that shame is more strongly linked to mental health problems than guilt is, because again, guilt is more temporary. And even embarrassment, right, is typically more situational and fleeting than shame. It comes and then it goes. Oh, I'm so sorry. Oh, I said that. I'm so sorry. Right. And we're like, oh, but it goes away. Right. But shame tends to encompass more deep-seated negative beliefs about yourself. Is this resonating with anyone? Put it in the chat. Let me know what you're thinking. You could get as personal or non-personal as you like. This is a safe place. And I won't say, oh, Karen said, I'll just read the comments to protect to respect your privacy. Let me wipe my screen real quick. Okay. So you can learn to identify and respond to shame. So shame is rooted in how we view ourselves in relation to others and how we think others might perceive us. Okay, so the experience of shame, for instance, we say something that, ooh, we said and we could tell, ooh, I offended that person. That's good because it helps us guide us. Oh, okay, so next time I won't say that. That isn't good in society, right? It's not appropriate conduct, not appropriate language. That was actually offensive to say that to somebody. My inner thoughts came out. But that shame can help us to look to behave in better ways, right? That ensure that we continue to belong, be in the pack, get along with others, enjoy being with others. But a chronic pattern of feeling that there's something wrong with you or feeling as though you don't deserve the care and love that other people deserve can lead to significant suffering. And we could see how. So that type of shame is linked to depression, anxiety, eating disorders, trauma, other personality disorders, right? And it can even be just distress, low self-esteem, a sense of isolation that can strongly impact important parts of your life, close relationships, work, school, because you keep people at a distance. And it's a common human experience, but it can lead to serious negative consequences when we don't check it and question it and work on it. So I'm going to teach you how to question it and check it and be aware. Okay. Professionals believe that shame often signals that there's an underlying need for understanding and soothing, either by to yourself or by others. So there comes in the savior of the story. Here's shame. And here's self-compassion. I talk about it all the time. Self-compassion is about tuning into that need, becoming aware of the pain right there in the heart that you're feeling. And a lot of people tend to avoid or suppress that pain rather than confront it. It's easier. It's what we were taught, right? But we need to get the wisdom, acquire the wisdom to know how to soothe that pain, acknowledge it, and then soothe it. We're the best people for the job, right? So, what often emerges through the practice of turning toward ourselves rather than away from ourselves, toward shame rather than away from shame, is the realization that, and if you're taking notes, I want you to write this down. Shame is, in fact, often understandable in light of one's experiences and history. What is needed is a different, more helpful way to respond to and cope with it. You're feeling shame, but realizing that when you know better, you do better. You did what you did back then at 3, 4, 5, 10, 15, 20 years old because you had limited knowledge and limited wisdom, right? People may have treated you like you should know. I have clients who, based on the culture at 3 years old, you should know better. Get in there and cook. Take care of your little sister, right? It's cultural. But now when you look, I want you to find a 3-year-old and look at them and say, wow, they're barely walking and running. They can barely clean themselves. And I was required to do all of that as an adult because the shame comes from these experiences where we were made to feel less than. And over time, if you can learn to interact more curiously and sensitively with the shame you experience, and we're going to talk about how in a bit, the intensity of the shame can diminish, as can its negative impact on your life. A lot of people are very lonely. It's an epidemic. Post-pandemic, it's an epidemic. Loneliness. A lot of it is because of our own inner wounds, how we look at ourselves. We don't feel worthy because we feel that shame on a constant basis. So, what can we do about it? Let me just look at some of the comments. Someone says, yes, absolutely. My past traumas trigger feeling is shame in me. Yeah, I often feel emotionally isolated from others because I carry the shame of my trauma around with me. Thank you for your honesty. I appreciate that. And that's what we're talking about. So you're normal. You're totally normal. Okay. So what can we do? Look at that. Someone said it's hard to comment because shame creeps up just to comment. Yeah. And that's why we're here. And thanks for sharing. Thanks for your honesty and vulnerability. I appreciate it, right? Because there's someone else feeling exactly the same way. And here we are. But they don't, right? The shame keeps them from even writing that. So I applaud you for writing that. This topic, as I was preparing it, I'm like, ooh, this is a good one. So what can you do? Number one, recognize shame as it arises in your life. Again, we normally squash it, push it to the side. No, no, can't do that. No, no. But recognize it. I'm getting a message. When any element of your existence, I'm sorry, just a sec, of your experience is long-standing, lasts a long time, it can be challenging to identify that it's present at all. Why? Because you're so used to carrying the shame, right? So it's challenging to identify that it's there because you're like, it's always here. And it's even more challenging to question it again because you're so used to it's your constant companion. Come on, shame, let's go. Last week one of the weeks we talked about fear. I think that was last week. Put it in that passenger seat. Say, put your seatbelt on, fear. Here we go. We doing this thing. I'm doing it with you. But shame, it's that constant companion. So generally speaking, The first step to changing anything is cultivating your awareness of it. How can you change something if you're not aware of it? So how can you recognize shame in your life if it's something that is always in your pocket or your pocketbook? Paying close attention. Now, here people go, I don't have time for that. What? I'm busy. I got stuff to do. I got these kids. I got my job. Okay. But you also feel that loneliness and pain of shame at the end of the day when you sit by yourself. And that doesn't feel good, right? So let's get to work. Make the commitment to yourself to take better care of yourself. We do it with outside things, nails, hair, diet, exercise, da, da, da. Let's give that attention to ourselves. The same attention mommy, daddy didn't give you as you walked in the door, when they walked in the door, when you walked in the room. Give that to yourself. You deserve it. It's high time that you get the attention that you deserve. Okay. You can't complain. They didn't give me attention and you don't want to give it to yourself. It's very hypocritical, right? So let's get to it. Okay. So one intervention is called self-monitoring. It's funny, we were taking my mom's, I was taking care of her today, and we were taking her blood pressure. And it was a little elevated, and she hasn't had high blood pressure in a while. But one of the family friends that was there, he was like, yeah, you should get a notebook and just monitor it, keep a tab on it every day. We haven't been doing that because she's been fine. She sees a doctor every 3 or 4 months, right? That's self-monitoring. Or people that have diabetes, they pinch themselves, they test their blood, they write it down. The doctor wants them to write it down. He wants to see it when they come in, the next doctor's appointment. You can keep a running log of your thoughts, emotions, and or actions, right? So it means listing your thoughts, the thoughts that arise in different situations. You could put in a journal, you could put in the note section of your phone if that's easier for you, right? See if you can try this experiment for at least a week. See how it goes. Whenever you have what seems like a shame-related thought, anything that casts you as a person as bad, broken, or defective, catch it, identify it as shame, write it down. We're not judging. We're not trying to fix it right now. We're just trying to identify it because it's always with you. But now we want to call it out. All right, write it down. When I work with my clients, I help them to detect those critical negative beliefs about themselves that they just take as a truth. It's a fact. I'm dumb. I'm useless. Let's start questioning those things because it's not the truth. So, what does it require? Slow down. It requires us to slow down. It requires us to take off of our to-do list things that don't belong to us. We're doing a lot more than what we should. And we need that time so we could slow down. The next time you hear yourself, automatically you drop something, you say, I'm such a screw up. I'm so stupid. Oh, those words hurt me when I hear them. When you catch yourself thinking, what's wrong with me? When you are just feeling sadness or fear, which are normal human emotions, you're normal. And maybe your mind goes to that thought of, it's all my fault that I'm like this. When you start getting critical about a habit that you have, a bad habit that you have, and you're like, it's me, it's me, I can't change. And it may sound daunting and unappealing to set out on this journey, learning how shame and self-criticism manifests for you in real time, writing it to aware and then writing it. But I promise you, it helps you to see opportunities for change in the language that you use towards yourself and how you relate to yourself. And eventually that mirrors itself to the outside world. When we're very self-critical, we require a lot of ourselves. We do the same with the people that come into our presence. So sometimes our loneliness is because we've kept people at bay, but sometimes it's because other people are like, she's just not pleasant to be around. She's too much. And we know that and we don't like it. But the only way to change is that if we do the work and we change. Okay. So is it a lot of work? It is. Are you worth the work? Yes, you are. Let's do it. Okay. Yeah. Someone said push it down and it comes up later. That's it. So you can't run from it. So isn't it better to face it? Take the time, slow down, write it down, do the work, take the journey. Today is February 24th. You're not going to be finished with this in a month. Oh, I cured myself. No, it takes time. But all we have is time. Be patient with yourself, right? Yeah. So through this process of paying close attention, a lot of people come to realize just how often and how harshly they judge themselves. And they're shocked, like in ways they would never judge someone else. So a lot of us, it does mirror the outs, we reflect that to others, but sometimes we are the kindest, sweetest people to those on the outside and harsh and mean and demeaning to ourselves. Wow. Horrible. Terrible. You don't deserve that. So this newfound level of awareness, once you become aware, it can in of itself invite a more compassionate stance to you, by you, toward yourself. Like, wow, it's just like the person that diabetic, the doctor's like, I need you to change your diet. And I want you to write down your sugar every day. And then they start like, 5 days ago, because they never took the right. 5 days in a row, my sugar's high. Yeah, now you need to examine why. What's in the diet? What are you eating, right? But when we just, oh, I don't know. Sometimes, like they say, ignorance is bliss. But in this case, it's not because the pain stays with us. Yeah, Fabiola says we are definitely work with a heart. And I would like to add, we're definitely worth the work with a heart because we are. Right? And we want to be more compassionate with ourselves, towards ourselves. Again, that NLP class, those that took it know, learning and seeing how we look at ourselves, think about ourselves, torture ourselves with our words like, oh, wow, I can't becomes I will, right? And our whole outlook changes, our whole inner monologue changes with ourselves. It's beautiful. The transformation is beautiful. So, what's the origin of your shame? That's a good question to write down. So, in addition to learning how to spot shame as it arises, Jonique is in the house. Hey, JoJo, good to have you. In addition to learning to spot shame as it arises, it's also helpful to spend time reflecting on what got you here, your upbringing, relationships with early caregivers. It could be that your parents were lovely, but they worked a lot and they left you with a mean grandmother most of the time, or a neglectful grandmother, or an uncle that would take advantage, right? Or an auntie, right? It could be experiences in school, at your place of worship. A lot of shame comes from that many times because people are very judgmental, and this is how everybody has their opinion of how you should live and what you should do, right? Even outside the bounds of the scriptures, people add their own judgments or other pivotal life experiences and try to understand, where does my shame come from? And write it down. Face it, look at it. And it could be several different people, different circumstances, different experiences. And for many people, although not all, shame has its roots very early in life. Some type of abuse, some type of circumstance that you had no control over. It could be struggles over poverty, racism, social stigma, one's identity or appearance, emotional or physical abuse, neglect. It could be the death of a parent, parents' divorce. We carry that shame. My mom and dad, my parents were together till the day they lied, but they till the day my dad passed away. But some people, their parents divorced when they're very young, and they automatically assume it's them, and they carry that around all their life. That because of me, my parents divorced. And they see other kids walking hand in hand with their parents, and they say, "How come I don't have that?" And their shame came in at 3, 4, 5 years old, a constant companion, and always comparing yourself to others. Look what they have, and look what I don't have. So if you can begin to recognize, accept that you're not responsible for the fact that these circumstances existed or perhaps still exist, right? If one of your parents died as a child, that still exists. That's still a truth. And it can help you to begin to shed some self-blame and unwarranted responsibility. It's not your fault. Some people have been abused in other ways. And they say it was the way I was dressed. It was that I came into the room at that time. I should have known better. And they were 4, 5, 6, 10 years old. You were a child. It's not your fault. It is not. It was not and still is not your responsibility. It's that adult or that older person that should have protected you instead of harming you, right? So even an addiction to pornography, right? Some people feel very shameful about it. It could be linked to being neglected in childhood, or someone exposed you to pornography, someone older, and it captivated you. And now it's an addiction that's very hard for you to manage. And you feel shame about it. You feel dirty. You feel useless. But it's not your fault how you got here. And the shame is not your fault. So, considering possible sources of shame from earlier in your life can provide a valuable opportunity to offer compassion to hear this. I love this, the younger version of yourself, because now maybe you're 30, 40, 50 years old, and you look back at that person, and you hate what you did at 10, 11, 12, 15, 19 years old, 3, 4, 5 years old. But when you could look back at yourself and have compassion, I didn't know then what I know now. I couldn't have done anything differently as a 9-year-old. I didn't have control over that situation. That wasn't my fault. I'm not to blame for what happened. It could be there was domestic violence, right? There was arguing, fighting in the home. And then the next day, everything goes on like normal. You have to go out and face people in the street. That the neighbors, did they hear what happened? Oh, do they know? I mean, it's just, but that's not your fault. That wasn't you doing the fighting, right? And it's also important to acknowledge that other people in your similar circumstances would probably feel the way you do if they had been in the same situation. I'm seeing that I'm having like some, I don't know why the screen is going off and on, off and on. I don't know. Sorry about that. I hope you can still hear me though. Hmm, I don't know what's going on. Okay. So this is a way of recognizing our common humanity, that we're all a part of, oh, I'm good. Okay. A part of the human club. Being in this club means, oh, no problems. Okay, good. Oh, maybe it's just my screen. Okay, great. This other screen over here that I look at the comments was going, all right, great, good. So we're part of the human club. Can we look at it like that? Being in the club means we all experience pain in our lives. And the essence of this pain is shared and familiar. That helps so much. And we rarely think about that. We always say, well, they had it better than me. They have it better than me. Look what they do. Look how they live. But there's no human on this earth that has not, as happy as they may be, as wonderful as their present circumstances may be, no one, no human can ever say they did not experience pain in one shape, form, or another. Just, it's not impossible. It's not possible. So we're a part of the human club. That's what we're going to start saying from now on, okay? So if you were a more active agent when you were younger in one or more situations and you now look at as shameful, it's really so easy to discount the fact that listen to this, your decisions were made by a more naive, less developed brain and version of you. You now in 2025 are very different from who you were 10, 15, 20, 30, 40 years ago, right? And sometimes we have the tendency to project what we know now onto that earlier, less capable version of ourselves. But part of what leads to the consolidation of shame during childhood may be the lack of complexity with which we think about mortality because we're developing. We don't understand risk, danger. And so if someone thinks, does, or becomes associated with something that's considered bad in any way, the self-perception, I'm bad because I'm this little, can become ingrained. I'm a I am bad, rather than focusing on the circumstances, the context that might have contributed to that outcome. Because like Maya Angelou says, when you know better, you do better. People that have been married and they're like, why didn't I see this? I can't believe I married this man. With the information that you had, you said, if I'm really honest with myself, I saw it. I saw it. Yeah, but who were you? Who, who how did you see yourself? Did you love yourself or did you want to be someone else's savior because your self-esteem was so bad? So you saw it, you saw those traits, but you said, I can help him. And then if I can help him, I'll feel worthy and he'll be forever appreciative of me and he'll never leave me. Isn't that something? And then you may be in your 50s and you see another 19-year-old about to do the same thing. And you may try to talk to her, and what does she say? But we're in love. It's different with us, right? And you just say, okay, baby, right? I mean, there's nothing you can do. But her perspective from 19 is so much more different from you in your 50s because all that time, the wisdom that you've gained. So look back and say, who I was back then, I get it. Based on what I had from my caregivers, my parents, my upbringing, my household, and the things that had happened to me, of course I made that choice. What other choice? It wouldn't have made sense to make any other choice because I didn't have the guidance or I didn't have the upbringing. And then parents want to condemn you. I can't believe you did that, but they're the reason that you have these wounds. We want to work on shedding layers of the shame, getting it off of our bodies, our net. We carry it all the time. It's just, yeah. Okay. So all human beings, all human beings have good and bad tendencies, impulses to charity, impulses to selfishness, the desire to be truthful, the desire to lie. There's a constant tension within us. The Bible says we're imperfect. And because of that, there's a constant battle, conflict, right, wrong, right, wrong. And that knowing that should also allow us to feel more compassionate towards ourselves, help us to relax those harsh self-judgments and reduce the tendency to make these generalizations about ourselves that are negative. I'm damaged goods, I'm no good, and we can make a whole list. And while we definitely should take responsibility for the mistakes that we make, we can do it without the judgment. We can do it along with giving ourselves grace and understanding. You did this at 20, but what was your life like up to? What led you to that? Give yourself grace. You deserve it. Okay, here's another thing to do, another tool. So we talked about recognizing, right? Checking it, writing it down. This is also good. Check in with yourself to build self-compassion because at its core, self-compassion is about embodying courage and wisdom. Why? It's the courage to lean toward that which is painful in this example. In this case, is shame, very painful, and the wisdom to know how to alleviate that pain to the best of your ability. So there's a psychologist, his name is Russell Coates. He's an expert in compassion focused therapy. He encouraged people who are experiencing suffering to ask themselves these questions. Here's a moment. Given my history and what I know about myself, does it make sense that I would feel this way? And another one is, given this, what would be helpful for me right now? Okay. It's a reorientation toward the self with understanding and compassion, leaving that self really harsh judgment aside. You might say, my feelings right now do make sense given my history. Maybe giving myself some time and space to write about what I'm feeling right now will be helpful. And then we do that. It allows you to support yourself in that moment. Again, the very thing we want from other people, we do it to ourselves and for ourselves. We don't need it from outside sources. What might be helpful for you will vary depending on who you are, what sort of coping strategies, right, are useful for you, and what the current situation is. If you're in a shame triggering situation, for example, something is said in a conversation, maybe you read or watched something, it activates these negative beliefs you hold about yourself. You might go for a walk, calm down, do some deep diaphragmatic breathing, gain a different perspective, gain some perspective, right? Maybe you take a moment and ask yourself, are there other ways to think about this? Am I making any sweeping generalizations about myself right now? Am I labeling myself in one specific oversimplistic way? I'm dumb, right? All those horrible things that come out. If you're in a situation where shame-rooted beliefs arise, there's something wrong with me, I'm damaged goods, and you're with a close friend, invite them in person though, or a family member, maybe you can acknowledge to them, I could use a hug right now from somebody who really I know cares about me. Can you give me a hug? Or you could say, it could be helpful to tell you how I'm feeling, what's on my mind. Do you mind? I don't need you to say anything. I just need a sounding board. I need to get it out. So asking for what you want, assertive communication. We talk about that in the NLP class. Being specific, not, well, he saw me sad, he shoulda, and he did. Don't waste your time on that. Tell the person what you need. And if they can't give it to you, give it to yourself. Get another person, right? Okay. And there are a lot of ways to practice self compassion, but by taking care of yourself in this way, taking the time, slowing down, becoming self-aware. What are my thoughts? Where did they come from? Where did they originate? How did that make me feel? Where's the shame coming from? You begin to learn that you don't have to believe everything your mind offers you. The mind says, you're stupid. And you say, mm-mm. And you can find ways to calm your mind that work for you in that moment. Diaphragmatic breathing. You may take a nap, coloring. Someone here does diamond art, um, artwork, sewing, knitting, taking a walk, whatever the thing, calling a friend, self-compassion. Do whatever works for you in that moment. And when you're evaluating whether something is helpful for you, pay attention to how it affects your body and your mind. Did it work? Did it help? or did it aggravate it? Okay. Tune in. My heart rate increasing? Am I taking more staggered breaths? And am I freer to consider some alternative perspectives? Is my mind better now or worse? Oh, it's better. Now I know what works for me. A brisk 10-minute walk, get myself out of the situation, out of my thoughts, because we get stuck in our head sometimes, right? And another effective practice is to slow down throughout the day. Ask yourself, what do I need right now? Really plug into yourself. Check your emotional pulse. What do I need right now? And this is especially helpful if you're teaching yourself, right? How to undo those unhealthy coping skills like emotional eating, drinking, speaking badly to others. Some of us walk around so angry because of the shame. So we take a moment to pause and reflect. What do we need? What's up under this need to eat excessively? Do I need soothing? Do I need connection? I need to recognize the frustration and anger, right? Or the jealousy that's coming up. What's going on with me? And then you can consider, again, once we recognize something, now we can work to change it, to better it. Now we can look for healthier ways to meet our needs that don't leave us feeling worse, but better about ourselves in the long run, right? We have talked a lot, right? But in experimenting with self-compassion is so important. People with high shame commonly face a strong belief, and you may identify with this, that they are not worthy of kindness or care from themselves or others. So connecting with the origins of shame, with our common humanity. Remember, humans make mistakes. We do good, but we don't do good all the time, right? That common humanity, we're in the human club. It can be helpful in overcoming this obstacle that I am not worthy of kindness or care from others or myself. No, you're human. You exist. So you are worthy of kindness and care from others and definitely from yourself, because we can't control what others do, but we can control how we treat ourselves, right? I always talk about a baby is born all crinkled up. They need to wipe off the blood and the this and the that. And the mother said, they put that baby in her hand and she says, he's perfect. And he's all right. Why? Because he's worthy of loving kindness. Es una criatura. He's a person. Oh my goodness. You are the same way. You are worthy of nothing but respect, love, and kindness. So you may say, but I don't know how to talk to myself better. This is how I've always talked to myself. And this is how I've always felt. Well, sometimes what do they say? Fake it till you make it. So sometimes we have to act like we deserve kindness and love and see what happens instead of waiting to feel ready or deserving of it, because that may never happen because of the years of upbringing under harsh circumstances. So it may feel strange, like, I can't, huh? But just try to experiment with it. It's a new way of dealing with yourself. Okay. You can also try writing yourself a self-compassionate letter. So it's a really good tool to identify shame and direct kind, gentle, and soothing care towards yourself. So look at what you do. It helps you to develop a different way to speak to yourself. You modify the content of what you say, but also the tone with which you speak to yourself, because tone has a lot to do with it too. So here's the exercise. You may make it a brief daily practice, right? Before you start writing, I love that thought of writing love notes. Yes. Before you start writing, think for a moment about something you've been feeling ashamed or self-critical about. Now, here's the key. Imagine that a close loved one or person in your life that you really care for came to you with this exact same situation. They're struggling with the same situation that you have. If you were to write a letter to them, How would you validate their struggle? How would you meet them right where they are, not attempting to fix their experience, but demonstrating warmth, your understanding, your willingness to accompany them through it? I'll walk with you. Grab my arm. I'm here for you. That's what we tell people. We're very nice to others. Just it's hard for us to be nice to ourselves. What would you want them to hear, feel, and take away from the letter? Mm. And when you're ready, you start writing the letter to the person. See what happens if you give yourself about 10 to 15 minutes. Write a letter to them, express whatever's on your mind, give them the comfort you want to give them, show them understanding and compassion. And it doesn't matter the length of the letter right now. What's most important is that you slow down and take some time to be this wise, courageous, compassionate version of yourself who knows how to meet another person who's struggling. I'm meeting them where they are. They're struggling. I'm going to help them. Now you write that letter to them. Now, after you write the letter, change your name. Take out their name and put your name. And now read the letter this time to yourself, to you from you. Slowly in a gentle and compassionate tone of voice, either silently or out loud. For some of you, it may be difficult to read this to yourself out loud, so you can read it silently and notice any reactions you have. A lot of times when people first do this exercise, the self-criticism bubbles up. That's hard. That feels corny, awkward. I don't believe myself. This isn't really me. But those thoughts are normal. Try to make room for them. Try to engage in exercise again later in the day or the next day. Others feel powerfully impacted by this exercise. The first time they try it, they're like, oh, wow. And a lot of times the writer realizes how harshly they treat themselves. They're able to feel self-compassion as they acknowledge the sadness in it. And then some, after reading the letter, it's almost as if a wiser, gently more caring part of themselves they realize is present. I didn't even know I could be like that with myself. That can be motivating to I need to do this more often. This is how, okay, I'm gonna make a change, a conscientious change because I want to do better. Okay. Whew. This is good. Fabiola says, I love that thought of writing love notes. I daily write myself a lovely thought. Just one or two sentences really help me each day to grow in self-compassion. And it's so important. When you feel anxious, for instance, what would my compassionate self say to my anxious self? It might be like, I understand you're afraid, but you've had this fear before and you were able to get through it and you did fine. We're going to do it again. You're going to be fine. All is well in in our world. What about you feel ashamed? It makes sense that you're feeling this way right now. And I know that other people would feel this way if they were in your shoes too. What about if you're angry? You say, maybe there's something other than self-punishment we can think about doing to help ride out these tough feelings. Because then you say, forget about it. I'm going to eat, eat, eat. I'm going to drink, drink, drink. I'm going to do this. I'm going to do that. I'm going to pull out my credit card and go to the mall and, buy all this stuff, get myself more in debt. We can be more compassionate. Okay, so we're going to shift our message and our tone, whereas when we usually would be very nasty and judgmental, we're going to be more supportive of ourselves. Okay, and one last thing, it's almost 10 o'clock, guys. Let's share in the context of safe relationships. I always quote this psychologist, she's amazing. And she calls people vitamin people, good people, vitamin people, because they lift us up, they make us feel good. People with shame commonly believe that if others knew about what I feel ashamed about, what I've done in the past, they wouldn't even want me around. They wouldn't accept me. They might probably outright reject me. And so there we go. The shame perpetrates a cycle of aloneness, isolation, It pushes us away from people. This US author, Anne Voskamp, Voskamp, said, and I love this, shame dies when stories are told in safe places. Isn't that beautiful? Shame dies when stories are told in safe places. So sharing about our shame can help us realize others will accept us despite our perceived flaws. They love us anyway. So I encourage you, open up in safe spaces. It has to be a vitamin person, someone that would be compassionate and loving to you, and that will help us connect when we identify that I can trust this person, right? And we'll be able to disclose, I've struggled a bit with anxiety in the past. I struggle now. The person really, wow, me too, or whatever, right? I experienced some rough things growing up. Some people have told me I don't share my past because it would scare people away. Most people, but definitely vitamin people, would probably just want to be closer to you because they're like, you went through all that and you're the wonderful person that I see before me right now. Wow, I love you even more. Right? Or you're struggling with something, you could say, hey, there's something on my mind. I would love to share it with you when you have some time. I really need to get it out. Okay, let's talk to other people. Look for a therapist in your area. You can reach out to me for coaching. My information's in the show notes, but it's Karen M as in Marinez coach at gmail.com. Okay. Here are some key points on how to cope with shame, and we're going to wrap this up. Shame is common. It's a common and painful emotional experience. If you feel shame, it's normal. Okay. Number two, you can learn to identify and respond to shame so that it doesn't just become a part of you. And no, learn to meet shame with self-compassion. That alters the pattern. You want to drop the shame? Shed the shame, put in self-compassion. Number three, recognize shame as it arises in your life. Keep that log, keep a notebook, write it in your phone. It gives you insights into how you relate and talk to yourself. And number four, understand the origins of your shames. What your shame? Where did this come from? Was it mistreatment in childhood, social stigma, prejudice, bullying? Something led you to this type of shame what's the origin of it? Number five, check in with yourself. Remember, take that emotional pulse to build self-compassion. When you're distressed, ask yourself, what would be helpful right now? How can I be of aid to myself? How can I find better ways to cope? Number six, try writing a self-compassionate letter. Remember, write it to someone you care about and later reframe it and put your name in there and read the letter to yourself out loud or, you know, inner. And number seven, acknowledge the different parts of yourself that are present. You are human. This human club, we make mistakes. And if we look back to who we were back then when we made the mistakes or when we couldn't control the situation that we had no responsibility for anyway, then we can have more compassion with ourselves and say, I get why I did that. Now I know better. I'm going to do better. And number eight, share in the context of safe relationships with vitamin people. Shame feeds on silence. How do you get your power back from shame? Talk about your experiences with people that you can trust. All right. This was amazing. It's 10 o'clock, guys. We got to go to bed. We got to get up in the morning, right? Imani says this has been very helpful. Geo, great tips. Thanks so much. Fabiola, so true. Non-vitamin people will only, yeah. Oh, yeah. Stay away. Only heap more shame onto. It's not worth sharing with people who are not safe. No, no, no. That is very dangerous. We're not going to do that at all. We're going to love on ourselves, be compassionate with ourselves, and look for vitamin people. All right. This was a pleasure. I'm going to open up the emotional wellness chat. If you want to chit chat a little bit, feel free. Luz, thanks so much. Amazing for sure. So glad you all enjoyed. Thank you for being here. It's a pleasure. Please like and subscribe if you haven't already. And what else? Love you guys. Big hugs. I'll see you next week. Mwah. Toodles. Oh, and NLP, the class will start March 15th. Those who've already done it can do it again. Those who are interested, you can sign up. All right. You can put a message in the chat or you can email me at karenmcoach@gmail.com. Bye now. Sleep well.
Let me hold you one last time.
Have you ever wondered why some people express their ideas clearly, connect deeply with others, and feel confident when they speak, while others struggle with fear, insecurity, or misunderstandings? The difference is their communication skills. And the best part, you can master them too with the right tools. Introducing Assertive Communication with NLP, a 30-day program designed to completely transform the way you speak to yourself and to others. Through 30 practical challenges, live classes, real-time therapy sessions, and expert guidance, you will break through the mental blocks that prevent you from speaking with confidence, improve your inner dialogue, and reprogram your mindset for success. Apply neuro-linguistic programming, or NLP, techniques to communicate effectively in any situation. Learn to set boundaries without fear of rejection or guilt. Develop persuasive and influential communication skills for personal and professional success. Master the art of active listening to build deeper connections. Overcome the fear of public speaking and express yourself with ease. Gain emotional intelligence to handle difficult conversations with confidence and calm. NLP empowers you to reprogram your mind for clear, persuasive, and impactful communication. Because when you change how you talk to yourself, you also change how you speak to others and the world. And the best part, the time to start is now. Today is the day to take action, transform your inner voice, and unlock your full potential. Sign up now and take the first step toward assertive and powerful communication. Your transformation starts today. Are you ready?